Hey everybody, Whitney here, and welcome to another episode of Tips and Tricks Tuesdays. Today, we're actually going to tackle tape wire lighting. If when you think of lighting your dollhouse, your face goes like this, or like this, or like this, well then you're in the right spot. Now, if you are a dollhouse lighting expert and you want to add your own tips and tricks, please feel free to put those in the comments below so that others can learn from you too. Planning is absolute key in the success of lighting your dollhouse or room box. I love to draw out my floor plans and mark the areas where I want lights. This also gives me a nice layout to refer to throughout the entire building process. If you really make it detailed, it can also be useful much later if you need to make lighting changes after your dollhouse is complete. Once your house is built, then you can also draw out the lighting diagram with a pencil. Just make sure to seal your wood with a clear or white paint sealer first before drawing your diagram. Otherwise, you will have to cover the marks and redo them. When planning for your lighting, do not forget to include your outdoor lighting. There are so many great options and styles in lighting these days. The most common lighting is the 12-volt lights, which I'll be using today. You can now get many of these with easy replaceable bulbs. Lighting in this category can be as low as $5 for a single light and can go up into the hundreds if you really want to get serious, like with these amazing chandeliers. If you want to completely forego the idea of wiring your dollhouse but would like real looking lights, LED battery operated lights like these can be a good option for you. Lighting in this category usually starts around $10 and can go up from there. It's best if you really take the time to figure out what types and styles of lights that you want for your dollhouse before making any serious purchases. For 12-volt lighting systems, there are two main types of wiring systems. There's hard wire systems and tape wire systems. I'll be showing you the tape wire system today. You can buy these kits for small, medium, or large dollhouses. They will definitely get you started. The nice thing about the kits is that they come with an instruction book, and each kit will tell you how many lights that you can use. For example, this one says 33 12 volts or 46 16-volt bulbs. That is something to know. When it says bulbs, it means bulbs, not lights. So for example, this is a 3-bulb light. So if I use this, I can then only use 30 more bulbs in the house because this kit is for 33 bulbs. Now let's take a look at the materials. Here's the bar of 2-conductor tape wire. It is made of 2 runs of flat copper tape evenly spaced on clear mylar tape. It has a protective paper that you can peel off when you install it. This is made so that you can wallpaper or paint over it. This is the Junction splice. You will connect this into the tape wire, and this will literally be the junction between the tape wire and the lead-in wire that connects the transformer. Here is your lead-in wire. You will plug one side into the junction splice that we just looked at, and then you will attach the other side to your transformer. You can also buy this with an on and off switch, which is super cool. This, of course, is your transformer. This is what you will connect your lead-in wire to and plug into your wall, providing electricity for your dollhouse or room box. If you bought it in a kit, then the transformer, of course, will be the correct one for the voltage you'll need. But if you buy one separately, then I suggest you purchase a circuit transformer because on the side of the packaging, it will actually also tell you how many bulbs that you can use with the transformer. Brass brads. So most kits will come with several of these brass brads, which look like the tiniest nails you've ever seen. These will be what you use to connect your tape together when going from one piece to the other, and what you'll also be using to make the connection between your lights and the tape wire. These are little eyelet grommets. These usually come with the lighting kits and are used in the same way as the brass brads for the purpose of making a connection between tape wire, but they are often not used because they are very, very difficult to install. However, these actually do make better connections between the wire, and they are less likely to loosen in the same way the brass brads are over time. This is your test probe. This will be your best friend as you go along wiring your house. This will be used in almost every step of the way to make sure that you have a continued connection as you wire your house. This is your pilot hole punch. This comes in the kits, but in my opinion, this is absolute garbage. I have broken every single one that I have ever had. Maybe that says something about me, but what commonly happens is that the needle tip breaks off and it becomes useless. So I do suggest you getting a small, thin push pin. A 9-volt battery. I like to use a 9-volt battery to test my lights prior to install. However, you can use a lead-in wire to test your lights as well. And of course, last but certainly not least, we will be using light. And in this case, I have a small 12-volt light that I'll be installing today in a foam room box. I am in the process of building a small foam board room box, so I'm going to use this for today's video. But let's pretend that it's made of wood, and I'll show you in a bit what to do if you are actually wiring a foam room box. I want this room box to be wired from the outside, and I also want to hide the junction splice underneath the room box, so it will be hidden and the room box can actually sit up against the wall and be plugged in from behind. I'm also only adding 2 lights on the ceiling, so you can see here that I've drawn lines indicating where I want my tape wire to travel from the base and come up and make a left turn. The most common way to draw your diagram is to take your ruler and draw a line 1 inch up from the base of the flooring. This line will be the guide for your tape wire. If you consistently place the tape wire 1 inch above the flooring, then you will always know where the tape wire is once the wallpaper is in place. I've pulled out my tape wire now and I've begun to remove the protective paper so that I can stick it to my room box. Be careful and try not to touch the sticky part as much as you can because you don't want to get your hand oils on the tape. I have made about a 1 inch flap or starting point under the room box. This is where the junction splice will be installed. Then I'm bringing up the tape all the way up to the back along the side of my line, and then instead of cutting the tape wire and connecting it with my brads, I'm going to fold back the tape on itself and create an angle. This will help to maintain a strong connection in the tape. Let me show you that fold again using a sample here where I have not removed the protective backing. So you can see I go up, I fold it back and create an angle, and then I fold it over itself going into the direction that I need to go in. I'm going to show it to you one more time. Then you can see here that once it's installed with the fold, it just has this really nice clean look and you don't really have to worry about any brads coming loose on you. When you open the junction splice, it will have 2 sharp prongs and then 1 small black screw that you can see here. You'll need to push the junction splice into the copper wire tape, making sure that each prong is in one side of the tape and that the black screw is in the middle. Also make sure that the open end where the lead-in wire will connect is facing in the correct direction so that you can properly plug in the wire. The junction splice may be a little difficult to push into your wood dollhouse, and so I would definitely suggest a little light tapping with a hammer. Not too hard though, because you don't want to crack it. Now you're going to take your lead-in wire and your transformer, and you're going to connect your lead-in wire to the transformer with a screwdriver. Once this is complete, it's time to connect your junction splice. Once the connection is made, it's time to plug in your transformer. Use your test probe by piercing it lightly into your tape wire. If the light comes on, that means that we're cooking with fire, people. And let's test that top part as well so we can make sure that where we created the fold, there's a good connection there. And we're ready to move on to the next steps. If that test probe had not come on, the most likely cause would have been a very poor connection between the junction splice and the tape wire. So check that first. Okay, and then real quick, earlier I said that I was pretending that this foam board was wood. So let's say though that if you are actually going to be lighting foam board, a tip here would be to go ahead and glue in a small piece of wood like this, wherever you're going to be connecting your lighting, and then you would put your tape wire over that, of course. And this is because foam board in particular, it tends to want to spit out those brass brads that we're going to be using soon when you install them. And so this wood will actually help keep them in place. It'll be a little less frustrating for you. All right, moving on. Now let's say that you have run your tape wire along the base of your house and you want to now run the tape up the wall as well. So in order to connect the two pieces of wire, you will need to overlap your tape like this. And when you install your brass brads, you'll need to install them in the pattern that I'm drawing here for the absolute best connection. However, let's say that you now have come to the end of your roll of tape and then you need to connect the next roll. So what you're going to do is slightly overlap the next piece and then connect your brads in this pattern. You will really only need to use one, but two brads on both sides will ensure better connection on both sides, especially when you're thinking of long term, because sometimes these can get loose. Always use your test probe though between connections to make sure that you're still getting electricity. Here's a sample dollhouse wiring here. It's time to install your lights. Of course, first unplug your electrical connection, just to be on the safe side. So most lights come with the plug that you can see here. You can just cut it off and separate the two wire casings with an X-Acto knife, but you can also just pull off the plug itself, and in most cases it's already kind of separated at the end, and then you can just separate them with your fingernail and begin to pull them apart. Sometimes the wires just easily separate from that plastic casing. Sometimes you have to carefully remove the wires with an X-Acto knife. Keep the two sets of wires separate as much as you can. Then you're going to take your 9-volt battery and test the light before installing. When you test the light on the battery, just note that the light is not going to ever be as bright as it will be when you install it inside your dollhouse. To install the light, you're going to take your pilot hole punch or a small pin and you're going to create a hole so that your wiring can go through it. Now I put my wire holes in the middle of the tape, but I don't really suggest this. This is very risky. I would suggest that you put your pilot holes on the side of the tape. Once you have your pilot holes, of course, you're going to run your wire through and then keep them separated. You're now going to take that little pilot hole punch or a push pin and you're going to pop a tiny little hole into the tape wire. It's very important that you do not make a big hole with your push pin because the brad is really small, and if it's loose in there, it will not make a connection to your tape wire, and this will ultimately be why your light doesn't want to come on. So you're going to place your brad in the hole, and you're not going to push it all the way in quite yet because you will need to take your wire, and you can see here I'm using tweezers, and you want to wrap it around the brad and then push it in. And you're going to do the same to the other side. So let me do a little close-up here of what I was doing there because my hand was kind of in the way. Now, make sure to keep the two sets of wires from crossing. This is just like Ghostbusters, people. If the wires cross, it absolutely can be catastrophic, and it can short out your light and it can short out your whole system, so be careful. Let me just stop here really quick and tell you that this is by far going to be the most frustrating part of this entire wiring experience. Now, if you've already done this before, then you know what I'm going to talk about right now. But the main reason that you're going to have so many of those brass brads in every package is because it is an absolute nightmare getting these little guys in place because they're going to shoot off everywhere, never to be found again. So you'll go through many of these brass brads, all right? So definitely buy extra. They are by far a real pain in the brass. Did you see what I did there? Here you can see the first hole is where I pulled the lamp wires through and separated them. Then I attached one set of wires to this brad and then the second set of wires to the other brad. And you can also see that I made sure to separate the wires. I also have clear tape on right now so you can see them, but that will be replaced with electrical tape. Once you have everything installed, this is what it's going to look like. And you can see right here, This really ugly area, this is where the brads kept trying to get away from me. So again, just be aware that that will happen to you. It happens to everybody. And now I want to go ahead and plug it in and see if we have lights. And we do have lights. So it's very exciting. All right, so now I can go ahead and use my electrical tape and place it over the wires on the top to keep them separated, but also keep those brass brads in place so they don't wiggle free. Now, if you're interested in having a few plug-in lights, so there are several ways to install them. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do that today. The easiest way is to buy the plug-in receptacles that look like this. First, before you install them though, make sure that your actual plug fits into these because not every brand is going to fit the same. So once you know that it fits, then it's actually just as simple as just pushing the prongs into your tape wire and then plugging in your light. This is easy, but it's also very bulky as you can see here, and it kind of takes away a little bit from the realism. Luckily, there's another way. They do make smaller plugs, but in order to do that, you'll need to change out the large plug that's at the end of your light, and they make a small plug kit that you can just modify it. And it's actually a very simple process to do, and the directions are pretty clear. This does require a little bit more work, but it will look better in your house. It won't be as bulky, it'll be more realistic, and it's actually easier on your lighting system as well. All right, and so now that you have installed your lighting, everything is on, it works, it's great. It's time for the fun part, which is wallpapering and decorating your house. So if you're interested in learning more about wallpapering, I actually also have a Wallpaper 101 video that you can find either in the description in this video or in my playlists. I had so much fun sharing this information with you today, everybody. I hope that you learned something new and maybe you aren't so nervous to take your dollhouse to the next level by adding some lighting. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. And remember, in this crazy world, it's the little things that matter.